Hello, I will be talking about if schools are safer after the tragic Columbine shooting. So, our overview is in the year 2022, fears of school shootings still haunt every parent and student since the massacre of Columbine. For this project, I looked at articles that took a look at how factors of America or societal theories are now used to displace fear in students and how fear has really only grown. In an article written here at ASU by David Altheed, he wrote about how children are broadcasted across America as treasure, leading to the thought of hurting children will get a terrorist message out of hurting America. The term Columbine syndrome was coined in a New York Times post in 2007 because of how the media projected not only the news, but how the assailant used social media to their advantage to show what they're doing. Hershey's social control theory was also looked at to analyze and compare school shootings, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. Background. So, the debate over how school systems can better prepare for an incident like this, or what allowed for this to happen in the first place, is always going on. Many look at the social and ecological aspect of what happened. It is important for people like social workers to examine and be able to understand the depth of this person's thinking. The ecological theory purports that individuals are embedded in multiple interrelated systems that directly and indirectly influence the individual. This allows for frameworks to be put up to dissect why violent behavior is exposed through a student. Many people choose to look at gun control route. The fear that pop culture instills the coolness of guns has made the topic of guns and gun control the number one case to have been talked about during the time of Columbine and after. So, as a mental health advocate, tons of research has been put into this area of study. The effects that these events have on students and students who are young and still have a lot of school to go through In a survey that was done in 2005 in Colorado, where the Columbine shooting took place, school psychologists, social workers, counselors, and principals were asked if they had a crisis team or a plan, if they offered group therapy, or if there were more than one service for students to have in case of an emergency. There had been a rise in each one of these aspects since the shootings, and many had a plan to prepare for future obstacles and how it would change their career. The most significant changes were in suburban areas. In Hershey's social bond theory, the road to delinquency is often brought upon their minds because of weakened or broken connections to some kind of community. The psychoanalytics of this theory led them to believe the loneliness aspect and wanting to rebel. Essentially, what they're trying to say is, if you have a student in a classroom, they feel that bond with the teacher, with friendships, with the classroom in general, with what they're learning, if it feels weakened or broken, the psychoanalytics of it is that their brain turns to delinquency or rebellion to try to make them feel good about themselves. Ultimately, although there has been much study that goes into the minds of the shooter or the students, the everlasting fear of losing a loved one will be there for a long time. Columbine was an indicator of a national problem, and we can't deny that. Legislations of school security, guns, and mental health strategies have been passed, and the right steps have been taken. However, can a school pick a shooter out of the dark if there are no tell signs? No, you can't. So, our only hope for safer campuses is that in the future, we have professionals who can seek out those who need help, kinder and nicer people to create strong bonds with, and live in a country that has extensive background checks and wellness checks before a gun can be given. There's been a total of 304 and counting school shootings since 2021. As a society, it's crucial to look out for one another and create safe environments. In an article regarding school security, Addington refers to begin to include visible security measures. Many people agree with this statement as it allows some concern for students who plan on bringing weapons and or malicious devices to school. However, it would stop them from trying to fulfill their intent if they saw serious security officers and machines that would 100% catch if you were planning on doing something malicious. Although it's not many people, there are people who have a problem with this and compare going to school like going through international security. Personally, I think it is a small price to pay in order to try and ensure a child's protection. Plus, it doesn't strip away freedom like people have said. Unfortunately, we live in a world where this is a reality, and real people have these thoughts. I don't think it's a matter of freedom or having rights. I think it's a matter of safety and, security, and I think those small people that do care about stuff like that can get over it. The biggest argument would be that of guns and gun control. Clearly, there are people in the world who believe everyone has the right to a gun and should be able to conceal it. So while my own views may not necessarily agree, I do accept that, it's an American right and it is a freedom. But how many times do we have to have accidental shootings or kids who take their parents' guns end in something like a massacre? There has to be something done to stop or at least have some kind of control. We can't be ignorant about this issue. There has to be a serious thought put into who has a gun, why they do, and if they're mentally fit to have one. And if you do have one, it's important to teach gun safety to everyone around you. Personally, after reading the research and the theories, I do think that there's a certain kind of motivation of not just hurting kids but America when these shootings happen. The comparison of being a terrorist act, while the word triggers a much bigger and warlike attack, it can still be validated. The issue is, as a country, while sanctions have been made to help school insecurities control things like this from happening, it can and may still happen. In one of these articles, it spoke about how pre-Columbine, the only worry for children were drugs, gangs, or outside insecurities. Clearly, post-Columbine, there is a rash fear that you don't know what the person next to you could be thinking. With all things considered, you could never take the fear out of me. With gun laws that don't protect most people and with the mental health disorders and issues on the rise in this next generation, I can see fear being around in students and parents for a very long time. And these are my references, and thank you for watching.